Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are singer-actress Synthia Hardy and actress-director Mary Joan Negro. Emmy Award-winning actress Synthia Hardy hails from the city of Chicago. You always take yourself to the city of Chicago, too. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in Theater at Loyola University, and you've seen her on TV, in commercials, and in hundreds of films and everything, right, Synthia? I can't go on. But your love is theater.
Yes.
And the theater has taken her to stages nationally and internationally, where she not only acts, but she sings. You've taken roles of Bessie Smith and Billie Holiday, and you're a legend, and you make those legends fantastic. And because of that, you've garnered so many awards of your own. And let's not forget to mention that you have a cabaret show, too.
Yes.
You do everything. Tell me what your career path took. When you were at Loyola, were you going to be an actress?
No. I was majoring in nursing and minoring in theater.
Oh.
And
so you're going to make a living.
Yeah. And the ironic part is after it got to a point where I had to go to the labs for the theater and the clinical for the nursing, and it was taking up so much time, so I had to make a decision. I chose theater, and my first 2 TV roles were nurses.
You're kidding.
And they were looking
you didn't have to research.
They were looking for someone who actually had medical terminology, so it was just perfect.
Oh, that was great. So you did have that. That career path was perfect.
Yes,
going
and
to
it has
nursing.
helped through a lot of other things from doing, the theater workshops. And I've worked with mentally challenged adults and children, so it's all come in handy.
That's interesting.
So-
You love to sing.
Yes.
And did you come from a musical family?
No.
It's just your own voice?
Yes, everybody looks at me and think, where'd she come from? But no, I have a couple of brothers who are very good at painting and drawing.
Oh, so in the arts?
Yeah, but no one acts or sings.
Well, how did you then start singing? Did you take singing lessons? Or was it in the church choir?
It started in the church choir when I was young, and then we moved, and I didn't sing for a long time. I started dancing first.
Oh, that's right. You love to dance, too.
And then as I grew up, I started getting into plays, and then I found myself in musicals, and I'm thinking, what are they listening to? So after a point, I thought, well, they're hiring me. I need to take some voice lessons.
You hadn't even been taking voice lessons at that
No.
time? So it was just a natural voice.
And so I thought, okay, maybe I can learn the right techniques and get it all together. But yeah, just sort of, I started getting hired after doing auditions and stuff.
Well, you won an Emmy, right, for this PBS special documentary called Precious Moments?
Precious Memories, a
Precious
stroll down
Memories.
47th Street. Mm-hmm.
What was that about? And what was the Emmy for? Was it a ensemble cast, or was it for
Yes,
you?
it was. It was, the documentary was about the nightclubs in the Chicago area during the 40s and the 50s.
I see.
And so I had the honor of playing one of the shake dancers, not a strip dancer, because in that time, all the dancers had a gimmick. They even had fabric or feathers or, some things like that. And so they hired me to do the dancer. And I had some fun because I did, the shake dancing. I also did one of those
What is
very
shake
ballroom.
dancing?
It's
Shake dancing.
just think Josephine Baker without the bananas.
So So no clothes or some clothes?
With clothes.
Some clothes, no clothes?
With clothes. But on that particular show, there was one dance that I did take the stuff off, and I had this bodysuit on, so it was a nude bodysuit.
I see.
But it wasn't nude, so my mother was happy about that.
Yeah.
But I did do some of the ballroom stuff that, I call it my Fred Astaire moments.
So as a documentary, then you were just depicting the dancing
Of that time, right.
Where did they film it?
They filmed it in Chicago.
Oh, they did.
Yes.
Well, that was familiar to you then.
Yes.
Were you cast there?
Yes,
Oh,
I was
you
cast
were?
there.
Oh,
Yes,
you were-
and I
you
was
were
very
still
familiar
living?
with the area that they were depicting in the documentary.
Oh, I see. So, did you know the president? Did you know Obama?
I did not know Obama. that was before my time, and I think probably before he was thinking about it.
You were gone. You were busy with Merry Wives of Windsor.
Right, by the time he was probably going into
What
his-
was that?
Mary Wives of Windsor? Where was it?
What was it?
Oh, it's a Shakespearean play, and it was actually Pacific Resident Ensemble here,
here.
in L.A., and it was the first time they had done a union show, and it was on the Santa Monica Pier.
Oh.
And so I was cast as one of the Merry Wives, and there are two of them, and it's a wonderful comedy. And we actually went on down to the Santa Monica Pier every weekend, and we had to put the set up and on
It's great
Fridays
on
and take it down.
location, isn't it like that?
Yes. And it kind of reminds you of that old, back in the Shakespearean days when you made your way through the village to the stage, where we sort of made our way from the little dressing area all around the park and onto the pier.
And did people sit or stand?
No, they were there, and it was free, and it was open.
how
and
fabulous.
We even had some of the homeless guys helping us to build the sets, and they expected us every weekend, and it was just nice. But it was
Pacific
great.
Resident Theater is fantastic, isn't it?
Yes.
They do great work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was a member with them for years.
Were you?
Yes.
And you have a cabaret act. Let's talk about that.
Well, that's the show I decided to create when I moved here.
So obviously one
No,
person.
it started out as a one-person show.
Oh, I see, okay.
And it was with Pacific Resident Theater. Because I was new here, nobody knew me, and I had a pretty good reputation in Chicago, but I wasn't crazy. So I thought, what can I do to what can I create to have people come see while I'm knocking on the doors?
I
And so
think that's
created-
what people do with these one-person shows, isn't it? It's
Yes.
like a showcase.
Yes, and so with this one, it ended up being 3 people
Oh.
and a 4-piece band.
Oh,
It was
wow.
it started
So it
with
just
one
kept
piano.
getting bigger
Yes,
and-
and so I do it, every few years or so, and it's just a lot of fun.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
And then how do you change it?
The music changes. I have it set up in 3 different segments. It's called Dinner Musicale with Synthia and Friends, and so I have the show set up like a menu. So you have your appetizers, your entrees, and your desserts, and so it can change within those.
And when we just said Dinner with Synthia, I was going to ask you about your mother naming you Synthia with an S-Y-N instead of like a Sin Girl S-I-N or a C-Y-N.
Yeah, she was different.
She was different.
But she was very sweet. I think she knew I was going to be the different one. I think that's what it was.
So you got the different name?
Yeah, and one of my brothers at the time had a different name. It was Dwayne, but D-U-A-N-E as opposed to D-W-A-Y-N-E, which at that time was the norm.
So she wanted everything different. So at the time you're doing your cabaret act, you try to do it every year?
Yeah, every couple of years. So I did it last year for 6 months.
Oh, for
Yeah,
that long?
Yes, at the Whitefire. I was
Wow.
doing it.
Well, you also did a play of Bessie Smith.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I was still in Chicago. That was quite fun. I actually played Bessie Smith as a young girl. And
That's what I was wondering, if you had to do makeup and get older and
No, for that one
fatter.
we had an older Bessie. I didn't have to. Thank goodness.
older and fatter.
It was as a young Bessie, so she was looking. The older one was looking back, and so I got a chance to run around and do that, and it was a lot of fun.
What stood out in that play? Your part.
For me, the whole Bessie Smith attitude. She always knew she was going to be a star, and it was that attitude, that mentality that just stood out for me. And even as a kid,
I
I'm
was
going
gonna
to
say,
be, I'm going to be a star. I'm going to be the star. I'm going to be the best singer in the whole wide world. And I think I try to take some of that with me, that, you know, that confidence and that stuff that she had. And it was just really great. But that's the thing that stands out for me and I think helps keep me going.
Is the remembering what she did and how she...
And coming up through all of that, you know, poverty and all of, you know, to come to the point where she was a star.
And you're also doing, your newest subject is Billie Holiday.
Yes.
Have you done Billie Holiday before?
Not to this extent. I've
Tell us about this. This is this. I'm going to show this because this is the flyer. Billie and Bogey.
Yes.
Who I thought, oh, Clark Gable. No, it's Humphrey Bogart. Were they friends, Billie and Bogey?
As far as we know, no.
No.
It's the same era, and actually there was Key Largo, the movie he did. There was a time when they did it. It was at the Strand Theater. And at that time, they would have bands playing before the premieres. And so one of the times, Billie Holiday was playing on that stage on a premiere, so I'm sure that he must have been there because that was the opening.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yes.
So how did you research her? Are you on the stage together, first of all, before we go on,
No,
Bogey
we're
and
not.
Billie?
No, we're not.
You're not on the stage together.
No, the two
so
solo
at the
shows.
So at the Whitefire, it's about Billie and it's about Bogey, but two
Yes,
separate.
So you get 2 shows for the price of one on one night.
That's right. On Saturday nights, right?
Yes, on a Saturday night.
Okay, so tell us how you researched her, because you said you knew Billie Holiday's work, but not to such a great extent.
Yes, so I did a lot of reading, a lot of going online, and re-listening to her music, because a lot of her life is in the music. And so when you listen to the songs, it can tell you a lot about her life.
So all the way through, does it follow a pattern? Her
And
music, yeah.
Yes, and you can hear it, and even, you know, she started out with the voice being light and a little airy, and then as she goes through the drugs or whatever, all the different things, and near the end of her life, her voice was a little deeper and darker.
Very interesting how you follow that path. And what about the lyrics? Do they change along the way?
She changed them depending on what she was feeling on a given night. But the majority of the time they stayed, but every now and then she would change a line or two, which is very interesting.
And how do you get your voice? Do you go through her whole life in your play?
A lot of it.
Or do you
it's
go
only
through
going to be about 45, 50 minutes, so I don't get to do as much as I would like to. But I have to take out chunks of the meat, so to speak.
But so you start
There would be
soft and
some-
sweet,
there
and
would
then
be some
get to
childhood
Yeah.
stuff up to adulthood and going through things for family members and stuff.
How do you drag that drug persona out of yourself so that you can do that?
Well, this is a tricky question. I decided when writing this that I didn't want to spend the whole time talking about her drug habit. Everybody does. That's what you know about her. I
That's
wanted to
right.
bring out something that people didn't know.
So you wrote this also?
Yes,
yeah.
I did. So I decided to go into some other aspects of her life. I touch on the drugs. I don't spend all the time there. I mean, everybody knows, okay, she
And
did
we've
drugs,
seen
she
it,
shot
right.
up, whatever.
Right.
But I wanted to do something different. So I have some different stories that we don't normally hear about her. And hopefully they'll be as interesting to everybody as they are to me.
But you discovered them, so it was pretty interesting for
Yes.
you. And before we leave, I know that you, because I guess of your background and that nursing feeling, give back to the community a lot. You
Yes.
teach from kindergarten to senior citizens
Yes.
in workshops, and
Yes, yes.
you teach them to sing?
Act. Usually I'm doing the acting. And I've actually had senior citizens who developed a theater group after I was teaching them. You know, they were senior citizens, can't talk now, senior citizens in an apartment complex. And I've had the kids, and right now I'm teaching college students, Columbia College Hollywood School of Film up in Tarzana.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So it's,
So you must get something out of it too.
Oh, I do.
Your satisfaction.
I do, and especially when, you know, with the seniors or the mentally challenged adults or kids, when you see that light come on in the eyes and you realize That's what it's all for. That's what makes it meaningful. That's where the heart is.
And you brought a lot of heart to us today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Synthia.
Thank you very much.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with director Mary Joan Negro. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and I'm back with Mary Joan Negro, director, actress, educator. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Drama and Language Arts from the University of Michigan and received a scholarship in drama to Juilliard. She's acted on Broadway, off Broadway, and on the stages of many repertory theaters throughout the United States. Mary Joan guest starred in countless TV movies, miniseries, soaps, sitcoms, and she's a founding member of the Matrix Theater Company, as well as the Antaeus, is that how you say it?
That's right.
Antaeus Theater Company. And in addition to all the acting, she's directing and teaching. Let's go back to Juilliard, because that you were like the first drama class, and John Houseman was the director or the head of the
the head of the school, as well as the director.
So how did that happen, and what did he do, and tell us about it?
Well, I was a senior in Ann Arbor, and John Houseman had just started the school 2 years, the drama division at the Juilliard School. And he was starting to get an idea that I'm going to start a professional company. Oh. So he went around the United States auditioning people that he thought would complement the people that were already at the school. And I, with Kevin Kline and David Stiers,
I was going to ask you who was there.
We were the three that were accepted into the third year
from
of
Michigan?
The four-year program. No, Kevin was from Indiana.
So he was picking up people like that?
He was picking up people, and David Stiers was from out here. And we were the three that joined that first class in the third year, and then he formed a company, the acting company, that is still going throughout the United States, having its seasons in New York now.
And is that how you got on Broadway?
That is how I started on Broadway.
How fantastic.
It was. How I got an agent.
Like 18, 19, 20 years old?
Absolutely. I was
and
so
all
lucky.
of you, who else was in his drama department at Juilliard?
In terms of teachers?
No,
both.
The
class. Oh, there was the first class, aside from being a zoo, was, obviously aside from Kevin, there was Patti LuPone.
You're kidding.
David Schramm, Ben Hendrickson, my husband, Norman Snow.
They were all
Mary
in the drama.
Lou Rosado. They were all members of that class. Sam Chuchovitz. I hate to go on and on because I hate to leave anybody out.
But it was an important,
extraordinary class of working actors and people in the business.
Did he use all of those people on Broadway?
Oh yeah,
He did.
We would travel throughout the United States for almost 46, 47 weeks of the year, and we would perform on Broadway. We would perform at the Billy Rose Theater.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And you were nominated for a Tony?
That was after. I wasn't in the company then. I was doing an Arthur Kopit play with Constance Cummings, that wonderful, wonderful actress.
But so once you finished school, then you were out, I guess.
I joined that, and started that company, the acting company.
Oh, and that was
that was separate from Juilliard. We traveled around the United States. I was with them for about 3.5, 4 years. And then I went out on my own.
I see.
And that's when I made my living off Broadway, on Broadway, and occasionally on TV.
And Houseman's company was the acting company, it was called.
Yes.
And it continues to this day?
It is going. It is going today. It is traveling around the United States. They also have a season in New York. They're going to be having a season in New York this year.
You're a founder. You were a founder in that company. You're a founder in Matrix.
Right.
And I've interviewed people from Antaeus because that's a really important company
Wonderful
too,
company.
isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you get involved in those things?
Well, I think there is a natural magnetism with people who really love the theater. We seek each other out, or we just get sucked into the orbit.
But how do you find a company that fits your needs or your personality?
I think you gravitate toward the people. I mean, I love great plays. I love the classics, and that is what those companies are dedicated to.
I see.
And they don't have to be old plays. They don't have to be dead plays or dead people. But they are great plays. I mean, the play that I'm working with now, I mean, with Ernie, I just find that it is theater. It is the best of theater.
Well, let's talk about that, because you shift from acting into directing, but are you still acting?
I do, but less and less. I've been teaching more and directing more. And that seems,
why?
You know, that's a great question. I think when I became a mom, I have two sons.
Yeah, there's like a turning point.
There is a turning point. And you start, I did. I started to absolutely shift my focus from being the one that is, the lights are on me, to wanting to see and examine the broader picture.
But maybe things change. Like maybe if the lights aren't on you in the beginning, maybe you want to be where the lights are.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. You talked about this. I have 2 brochures because I went to see the play. Heavy.
Like the Weight of a Flame.
It's a hard title, but it takes a lot of time in the play, doesn't it? Where he explains it and what he goes through. How do you direct this boy who is hip-hop, streetwise, hangs out with druggies? How do you direct this play? A white woman directing this Puerto Rican?
Yeah, and his father was Jamaican, so it's funny because we made a lot of jokes about that, my name being Negro. And,
that's true.
And being a white girl, but from Brooklyn. And somehow Brooklyn does win out.
So the Odyssey, he's on a single stage. Tell us about the staging.
The staging, we decided because it is his story, especially a period of his life from when he was a young boy, 12, through his early adulthood. That's the story, the time frame of this story.
But not Ernie's. Let's see, his name is Ernie Silva, but not his story.
It is his story.
Oh, it is his, but he didn't write it.
He did. He wrote it with James Gabriel.
I see.
But it is absolutely his story.
Why does somebody else have to write it?
I think he and Ernie and James worked together because James is also a writer, and I think it was that Ernie wanted somebody's writing ear.
I see.
So they started writing together.
I'm only asking. I know people write together like that, but when it was somebody's story.
Well, you know, sometimes when it is your story, you lose perspective in making it more of a universal.
But the other thing is, that's what I always, on these one-person plays, I wondered why they needed a director, and it's always another eye.
It's that eye. It's as I said to Ernie, I will be your audience until they show up.
I see. Well, they showed up. They're showing up.
They are showing up.
They're showing up, and he's fantastic.
He's
but
wonderful.
It's a black box.
It's a black box, and because what we decided was this was his story as shaped by memory. And how do you do going from one thing to another on stage? If you do it too realistically and concretize it too much, then you are rooted in just one segment of the memory. This can flow from one memory to another, from one place to another, with just a few lights and a few black boxes.
So without a set.
Without a set. So it has...
Well, it is in a black box, which is all painted black, but it uses black boxes.
And they become whatever they become.
The
mountain.
I think
the mountain, exactly. The kitchen,
Yeah.
the boxcar, his
True.
bedroom. They become whatever, the jail.
Because he makes you believe that.
Right. And there's some, I find that the audience really loves when they are asked to use their imagination.
So he plays a guitar, he break dances, he uses drugs, he's on a street, thing car, box car. He runs away, and then he explains what heavy...
Like the weight of a flame.
Thank you.
Yes.
He explains it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
what it
think
really means, because it's his finding
it's-
himself,
it's
right?
finding yourself. It's finding that voice that really, how does one describe the voice that one wants to follow, the flame that one wants to follow? What is it that makes one choose one path or another? Who is wise enough to know
And that's the heavy
the
part
weight
of it?
of a flame?
The weight of it?
Who is, and sometimes that flame that burns within us can burn us up.
Either way, right?
Right. So
So I'm back to this,
Mm-hmm.
having you direct him, because he is all over the stage.
right.
And obviously it's like a choreography.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, the trick of this, as we talked in rehearsal, and if you had been in rehearsal, you might have thought, oh my God, no wonder this takes so long, because it is choreography made to look as though it just happens. And that's the beauty of theater.
But that's directing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to bring a choreographer in to do that kind of thing too, right?
Right. And we did have Chris Downey, a wonderful actor himself and choreographer.
Oh, you did?
We had someone who came in who could actually pinpoint for Ernie the parts of the body, how to use them to create all those characters.
Oh, I
To really target, like if your shoulders go back, you become Sam. If they go forward and down, you become your brother. So that he could change.
Or your mother.
Or your mother.
The way he
How
stood
with
with that
the head,
attitude,
yes,
yes.
with that attitude of the mother. How you can actually, through technical physical movements, capture the essence of all those, so many characters that he uses.
Do you, before you direct something like this, research those kind of people so that you also have a knowledge of how to direct him?
Sure. I mean, and a lot of the research we had together was, remember Brooklyn? Yeah.
Oh, so that was it?
It was that Brooklyn
That
thing.
kind of thing.
Yeah. But it is my imagination. I had a different Brooklyn upbringing from Ernie. But
Well, he came from a huge family.
But this is what the beauty of this play is, that I think it's about family. He had his Puerto Rican, Jamaican family. I have my Italian family. But it is that mother's voice. It is finding your voice. It is the courage to leave home. However that happens, it happens for us all.
So how did the two of you get together?
At USC.
At USC, where you
USC,
teach?
Where I teach. He came into my classroom one day. He was a graduate student, and I was teaching my Shakespeare undergraduate, and he bowed at my door, a little bow, and he looked at me and he said, "May I talk to you a minute?" And I said, "Sure." And I had sort of seen him roaming the halls. You can't mistake him,
He's
being
so tall.
6'3" and lean and lanky. And he said, "Somebody said I should come and talk to you." And he handed me this little packet and he said, "Would you mind giving me feedback on this?"
Oh.
And I said, "Sure." And that was his first year as a graduate student at USC. And for 3 years, I gave him feedback, and we talked, and we did workshop productions.
Did he take your class?
He never took. I took one class. I taught their class, and I directed him and his classmates in a show.
But he must have had such respect for you to come to you.
I don't know.
How did he know that?
I don't know, other than I think that it's what he talks about. There are sometimes you listen to voices. I don't know what possessed me. He walked in, and I just said, "Sure." I said, and he always said, "What made you say sure?"
I
said,
know, and I'm saying, what made you go
and I
with him
said,
at all?
Because when you see, I said, "Ernie, when you walk in the room and you say, 'Would you give me feedback?' who would say no to you?" I mean, really, he's such an engaging human being.
What other types of plays do you direct?
I've directed, I've actually done a lot of modern plays. At USC, I did 2 shows. I directed 2 shows of new writers.
Do they do it like at the Stopgap or?
Those
theaters?
Yes,
Little
yes,
theaters
little
then?
theaters. I've also directed major Russian Gorky plays.
Wow.
I've directed Lynn Alvarez, a beautiful writer who wrote about the Argentinian disappeared.
Oh my God, I love those stories.
Oh, it was a beautiful play.
Did
That's
you
the
go
one that I
down
did
there?
with Ernie. My sister lived down in Argentina for a
Buenos
while.
Aires,
Buenos
isn't
Aires.
it wonderful?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
beautiful.
wow. So you had some feeling from what your
Right.
sister
Oh,
had.
absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact, she was a huge help with the music and with her stories. With her stories, yeah, yeah.
That's
so
incredible.
I just love theater. And
So do you read a lot?
I do. That's what I tell my students. Just read, read, read. Just read.
And do they write?
Some of them do, and there are some wonderful writers at USC.
So tell us what
Wonderful
department.
writers.
Is it in the theater department?
The theater department. It is, you know, I sometimes think if anybody doubted the artistic idealism of our upcoming generation, they only have to go to the theater department at USC. They are phenomenal
Oh, that's
students.
so good to hear, because the
it's
film
great.
department is incredible.
Yeah.
But the theater department as well.
It's wonderful. It's
The-
wonderful.
You know, you see so many actors and you think that they just get on stage and act, but they all have gone to school, they've all gone to college, they've all done acting classes, workshops,
Right.
graduate work.
Right, right. And it is, I mean, theater, yes, there's that thing,
Yeah.
the talent, the
You
whatever
need that,
it is,
right?
that thing. Nobody can teach that thing.
Yeah.
Nobody can teach what that is. But the craft of it is what really makes.
Is that how you
that's
shape
how
it?
You shape it. That's how
Thank you
shape it.
so much.
What a pleasure to talk to you.
Mary Joan, thank you. And thank you for watching today. Keep writing. 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. But email us. We love your emails. JAQUINN, the numeral 1 at AOL.com. See you next time.